The last part of what we're going to discuss tomorrow afternoon is going to be putting it all together, the delivery technique. How to present the menu, how to deliver, what to say to the consumer. And there's a lot of technology out there today. Some people are using paper menus. Some people are using tablets. I personally love DocuPad. Does anybody have DocuPad? It's phenomenal, isn't it? You have to be a Reynolds & Reynolds customer to have it, but DocuPad is just phenomenal. I was looking at it last week at the industry summit. So there's a lot of different ways, whether you're using a paper menu, and I'm going to be showing some paper menu examples here in a minute. Whether you're using a paper menu or whether you're using a technology application, it really doesn't matter. Okay, page 4, let's get down into it. We are here to learn advanced menu selling competency. Proven methods and procedures, the demeanor, attitude, and selling skills of a highly polished professional financial manager. Now, a lot of dealerships have been experimenting with the salespeople delivering F&I. I disagree with that. First of all, you got to remember the F&I manager is the policeman of the dealership. You know, we are compliance trained, hopefully, and sometimes I have to say no when everybody else is saying yes. I was an F&I director in some of the largest stores in the country. And one thing, as an F&I manager, I always negotiated that I had authority. You know, if that deal was a no deal, that was my decision. We're here to learn to maximize unit sales and maximize profitability. Never forget that we're a profit center. Never forget that F&I is probably the best profit center in the dealership. You know, and that's one thing about F&I. In the sales department, what is your position?
Finance manager.
Okay.
Business manager. Yeah.
Sales manager. In the sales department, a whole team of people can gang up on a customer for 4 hours and not make a deal. And that's perfectly acceptable. Let one come blowing out of your office. So, in other words, we have to be precision closers with a stopwatch running. And we have to close 100% of what's in front of us. You know, so think about that. I'm not going to get into the head of the book right now, but we are to learn sales consultant, sales counseling methods. That's that credit interview I was talking about. We are here to learn full disclosure sales for selling parts and labor agreements. Now, parts and labor agreement, Wayne, what am I talking about? What is a parts and labor agreement?
Well, it's extended service plan.
Extended service plan. Why didn't I call it that?
Because it's actually a contract.
Yeah, see, I see a lot of dealerships where the people are calling it a warranty. That's against federal law to call it a warranty. It's not a warranty. To be legally described as a warranty, it must be supplied by the manufacturer, it must be free, and it must be given to everyone. That's the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act. It's an extended service contract. I prefer to call it a parts and labor agreement because that most accurately describes what it does. And if you go to Best Buy, they don't sell service contracts, they sell parts and labor agreements. You know, that's what the consumer is used to hearing in today's marketplace. So parts and labor agreement is a much more customer-friendly term. So I use a lot of what I call semantics. Alternative words that say the same thing. You know, more customer-friendly words that are more likely to close the deal. Does this make sense to you?
Pretty logical.
Yeah, so it's a parts and labor agreement. Gap and parts and labor agreement, you should be selling a high percentage of both. And we're here to learn ways to manage and motivate the sales force to get the best quality of turnover. Is it possible? What is your position?
Finance manager.
Finance manager. Is it possible on an off day, certainly not on purpose, that a salesperson might sabotage the F&I profits?
Absolutely.
Is that possible?
Yes.
Is that possible? If you can't motivate, manage, and control the salespeople, you've got to have a way to do that to get a quality introduction on every customer. That deal has got to have a quality setup. And excuse me, if you have a problem with F&I, Mr. Salesperson, Mrs. Salesperson, you got a problem with F&I, go join the Peace Corps. But I'm telling you right now, we're here to learn professional, benefit-driven word tracks that clearly describe what the product does. We've gotten so involved in car jargon that we forget that the customer doesn't understand and speak our language every day. Now, there's a lot of this stuff here I wrote when Saturn was around. Okay, page 6. We call this the New Millennium edition of my F&I seminar. This text is the 14th edition completely rewritten. To me, F&I is the most exciting, responsible position in the car dealership. The F&I manager has more skills, more schools, more specialized training than anybody, except the technicians that turn the wrenches. And it's a position of dignity, authority, and respect. I can't tell you how many times I've said, look, I'm not the sales manager's secretary. I am a manager. And to be a manager, you have to be a manager. You have to understand what it means to be a manager. In my travels today, I can't tell you how many times I have to teach young managers, and that doesn't mean physically young, I mean young in the job. I have to teach young managers how to be managers. We have lost the idea of what it is to be a supervisor, a leader, and a manager. A manager lines up the cars and checks the time cards. That's a manager. And what I found out today is so many general sales managers are not truly general sales managers. General sales manager is the first executive position in the management chain of a car dealership. They're desk managers, they got a better position. So in this same room in a couple of weeks, I'm going to be doing a general sales manager class. Never apologize or feel that you are in an inferior position. In a modern dealership, absolutely essential when you consider that the majority of consumers, even the high-line consumers, the payment is the reason they're buying the car. Even the high-line consumers, they're not buying the price. And I see all these price point ads. Why do customers negotiate so hard on the price and the trade to get a lower payment? And even the affluent people are still aiming for a lower payment. When I started working with Highline dealerships, I came to that realization. On page 7, it says you never need to lie, cheat, sneak, deceive, or misrepresent self-finance. You don't need to be a criminal to do what we do. And I think the industry has cleaned out a lot of the criminals. They're still out there. When I spoke at Industry Summit last week, I was talking about compliance. The number one thing in dealerships today that law we break, prosecutable law, liable law, is power booking. Putting equipment on the credit application that really isn't on the car, putting income on the credit application that the consumer really doesn't have. Falsifying a credit application is the number one crime in dealerships today. And you're the one that has to be the guardian to be sure that doesn't happen. Because they're putting people in jail for that today. It used to be we just apologize to the bank. paid the car off, apologized to the bank, and moved on. But in 2014, they made it a federal law that the financial institution has to turn you in. By law, they got to turn you in. They cannot just pass on it. And I can tell you case after case where managers have gone to jail because their employees falsified a credit application. And by the way, there's at least one or two people in this room that know that your people are doing this. So legal compliance is going to be something we're going to talk about. Page 8, it says a sales manager without F&I background is a soon-to-be extinct dinosaur being sucked down in the tar pits, eating the last brown shriveled leaves off the trees. Sales managers have to be familiar with blocking and tackling in F&I. That's why I got Andre in the front row. I'm really pleased to see you here. You have to be familiar with what goes on in that F&I office. On page 8, it says 87% of consumers. I don't know how valid that 87% figure is, but it's, if you take J.D. Power and you take NADA and you take all the people that do statistics, it averages out about 87% of consumers today are buying based on the monthly payment. You know, if you take everybody's statistics and average them out, and you got to remember, figures lie when liars figure. So I don't like to quote a lot of percentage statistics. Truth in Lending Laws, Fair Credit Disclosure Act, Federal Regulation Z, Equal Credit Opportunity Act, Deceptive Trade Practices Laws. So many people today are prosecuted for deceptive trade practices. Deceptive trade practices is basically doing anything designed to trick the customer. Anything designed, it's either prejudicial, it's discriminatory, or it's misrepresenting the product. You know, you can't do any of those things. And like I said, the legal part of compliance, I was at a big compliance seminar just last week. It's amazing some of the things that are coming out right now.